The United States Army approved a Medal of Honor for one of its corporals, and then classified it. The reason was a number in his own record. More than 50 enemy soldiers killed on one hillside in Korea before his ammunition ran out and he was severely wounded. The Army believed that if the enemy ever learned that number, they would kill him for it. So the highest honor this country gives was approved, written down, and told to no one. Not the public, not the press, not even the man who earned it. His name was Hiroshi Miyamura. Everyone called him Hershey. 28 months would pass before anyone told him. This is why. He was born on October 6, 1925, in Gallup, New Mexico, a railroad and trading town on Route 66 at the edge of Navajo country. His parents had come from Japan. They ran a small diner that never closed. Hiroshi was the fourth of 8 children. A schoolteacher couldn't quite say Hiroshi. She called him Hershey. The name stayed with him for the rest of his life. His mother died when he was 11. In a family that size, on an income that thin, the children grew up fast. He was small, quiet, and dutiful, modest to the point of self-effacement. That is how the people who knew him described him every single time for the rest of his life. And he came of age at a hard time to be Japanese American. After Pearl Harbor, the government moved about 120,000 people of Japanese ancestry off the West Coast and into camps. Gallup sat outside that zone. And by Hershey's own account, it was the only town in New Mexico that refused to turn in its Japanese American neighbors. His family stayed home, which makes the next fact easy to say and harder to absorb. He volunteered. In January 1945, he joined the Army. He trained as a machine gunner with the All-Nisei 100th Battalion and 442nd Regimental Combat Team. Their motto was, "Go for broke." They became the most decorated unit of their size in the entire war. Then Japan surrendered, and he never got to the fighting. He was discharged and went home to Gallup, a soldier who had trained for a war that ended without him. He would wait 5 years and a different war for that. In the summer of 1950, war broke out in Korea, and the Army called Hiroshi Miyamura back. By November, he was there, a corporal, a machine gun squad leader in Company H, the heavy weapons company of the 2nd Battalion, 7th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Infantry Division. He was 25 years old. In 6 months, he would do the thing his own country decided it could not say out loud. By the spring of 1951, the front had hardened along a river called the Imjin. On a defensive line the United Nations Command had drawn and named Kansas. On April 22nd, a massive Chinese offensive came south to break it. It was one of the largest battles of the war, near a place called Taejon-ni. Company H was dug in on the high ground. Hershey's squad had the machine guns. His citation says only, "the enemy." Unit histories name them. Chinese forces in that spring offensive. Soldiers in the dark, in numbers. No line was built to hold. On the night of April 24th, they hit the position and threatened to overrun it. What Hershey did next is written, word for word, in his Medal of Honor citation. We won't add to it. We don't need to. Aware of the danger to his men, he jumped from his shelter. In close hand-to-hand fighting with his bayonet, he killed approximately 10 of the enemy. 10 men, in the dark, at arm's length. Then he came back to his own position, and the first thing he did was treat the wounded and get them moving out. A second assault hit the line. He manned his machine gun and fired until the ammunition was gone. He ordered his squad to fall back, and he stayed, to destroy the gun so it could never be turned on his own men. Then he fought his way, by bayonet, through enemy soldiers who had already broken into the position, to reach a second machine gun and keep it firing. Notice the shape of every decision he made that night. Each one moved him toward the fight and moved his men away from it. When the whole company had to withdraw, he did it one more time. He sent his men out first. He stayed behind to cover them. Before his ammunition ran out, he killed more than 50 of the enemy, and then he was severely wounded. Approximately 10. More than 50. Those are the citation's own numbers, printed in a federal document. He did not stop. Wounded, in pain, he kept firing to hold them back, until his position was overrun. His citation ends with a single sentence. When last seen, he was fighting ferociously against an overwhelming number of enemy soldiers. When last seen. That is the United States Army, inside its own award document, admitting it had lost sight of the man it was decorating. From his own side of that hill at that moment, Hiroshi Miyamura simply disappeared. He was alive, severely wounded. Accounts describe a grenade wound to his leg, a detail the citation itself does not carry, and taken prisoner. The next day, behind enemy lines, he came to. The prisoners were marched north, hundreds of miles over weeks by the accounts reported afterward, with almost nothing. One of the wounded was a young private named Joe Anello. Hiroshi hurt himself, picked him up, and carried him. About 10 miles. Then the guards ordered Hiroshi to leave Joe in the road. And finally they told him they would kill him if he didn't. It was Joe who ended it. Joe remembered what he said to him. "It's okay, Hirsch. I sincerely appreciated all that you have done for me." Hiroshi put him down and kept walking. And for decades afterward, he believed he had left his friend to die in the road. He was wrong. The guards moved on. Joe Anello was found, evacuated, and lived. Years later, the two men found each other again and stayed close for the rest of their lives. Joe died in 2018. Hiroshi outlived him by 4 years. Hiroshi spent roughly 28 months as a prisoner of war, held, by the POW accounts we have, at Camp 1 near Changsong, up toward the Yalu River. And here is what he did not know for every one of those months. Someone had read what happened on that ridge. They put him in for the Medal of Honor. It was approved, and then it was deliberately classified, an extraordinary step, and a rarely used one. The reasoning was blunt. If his captors ever learned how many of their soldiers he had stopped that night, they might take their revenge on him. So the highest honor in the country sat in a file, unannounced. And the one man on earth who had earned it had no idea it existed. In the summer of 1953, the fighting stopped, and the prisoners came home. In the exchange they called Operation Big Switch. Sources disagree on the exact day he crossed back. Some record August 20th, 1953, others the 23rd. What every account agrees on is what happened when he did. He was told 2 things he never saw coming. That he had been promoted to sergeant, and that he was a recipient of the Medal of Honor. On October 27, 1953, President Dwight Eisenhower placed that medal around his neck at the White House. The general order that put it on the books was dated 8 days after that. General Orders Number 85, the 4th of November, 1953. The secret was finally out. The diner keeper's son from Gallup had come home a legend he never asked to be. And then he did the most Hiroshi Miyamura thing imaginable. He went home to Gallup and lived quietly. He opened a service station and worked as a mechanic. He married Tsuruko Tsuchimori. Everyone called her Terry. They raised 3 children. His town never forgot him. His name is on a high school in Gallup, on the interstate overpass, on the local veterans clinic, named for him by federal legislation signed in 2023, on a gate at Fort Stewart, Georgia, and for the rest of his life, whenever anyone called him a hero, he pointed somewhere else, at the men who never came home. Hiroshi Miyamura died in Phoenix on November 29, 2022, at the age of 97, one of the last Medal of Honor recipients of the Korean War. He was buried with full military honors at Sunset Memorial Park in the town where he was born. They once hid his medal to keep him alive. He spent the rest of his life trying to give the honor away. Conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity above and beyond the call of duty. A corporal who stood between his men and the dark, and never once believed he'd done anything special. Hiroshi Miyamura. We remember.